On August 1st, 2012, a trading company in New Jersey turned on a piece of software at 9:30 in the morning. By 10:15, 45 minutes later, that company had lost $440 million.
That's about $163,000 a second. Faster than you can read this sentence. They were already down another beach house. And the cause? Not a hacker, not a market crash, not fraud. One engineer forgot to delete 8 lines of old code. Let's set the scene. Knight Capital wasn't some scrappy startup. It was one of the biggest players on Wall Street you'd never heard of. They didn't day trade for themselves. They were a market maker, the middleman that makes sure that when you click buy on a stock app, someone is actually there to sell it to you, instantly, at a fair price. At their peak, Knight Capital handled almost 17% of all trading volume on the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ combined. Roughly 1 out of every 6 shares traded in America passed through their servers. This was a company built entirely on one promise: our software is fast and our software is correct. Here's where it gets almost unbearably relatable if you've ever worked with legacy code. The New York Stock Exchange was rolling out a new program called the Retail Liquidity Program, basically a new system to give better prices to everyday retail investors. Every trading firm had to update their software to plug into it. Knight Capital had actually built code for something similar years earlier, a test system called PowerPeg. It hadn't been used in 8 years. It was just sitting there, dead code, quietly rotting in the codebase, like a gym membership nobody canceled. When engineers repurposed an old flag in the code to trigger the new system, they were supposed to also delete or disable that old PowerPeg function. It was old, it was useless, it should have taken 5 minutes. One engineer updated 7 of the company's 8 production servers with the new code. The 8th server never got the update. Nobody caught it. There was no automated check that verified all 8 servers were running identical code. It was, and I promise this is a direct quote from the SEC report, a manual deployment process. 1 out of 8. That's the entire disaster right there before a single trade even happened. Tuesday, August 1st, 2012. The opening bell rings. On 7 of Knight's servers, the new correct code activates and starts routing orders normally. On server number 8, the one still running the old PowerPeg code, something very different happens. The old PowerPeg function was designed back in 2005 to do one specific thing: buy a small number of shares, check the price moved in the right direction, and repeat. It was a test tool. It was never meant to touch real client money. But now, it was receiving live customer orders. And every time it received one, instead of executing it normally, it triggered a runaway buying loop, buying and buying and buying at whatever price the market offered, across nearly 150 different stocks, thousands of times per second. To put that in perspective, on a normal day, Knight's entire trading desk might execute a few 100,000 trades. This one broken server alone fired off roughly 4 million trades before anyone managed to stop it. And it wasn't even trying to make money. It was just buying relentlessly, like a Roomba that got sentient and decided its only purpose in life was maximum spending. Stocks that should have moved a few cents were suddenly swinging wildly. One company, Wizard Software, a tiny, obscure stock, spiked over 300% in minutes for absolutely no real-world reason, other than a rogue algorithm deciding it needed as much of it as possible. Here's the part that makes this story so painfully human. For the first several minutes, nobody at Knight Capital fully understood what was happening. Alerts were going off, but the system that was supposed to send clear error messages was, and this is almost poetic, also broken by the update. The warnings were vague, buried, and easy to miss in a wall of normal daily alert noise. Engineers scrambled to figure out which of the 8 servers was misbehaving. Remember, there was no automated flag that just said, Server 8 is running old code. They had to manually dig through logs, live, while millions of dollars evaporated every few seconds. At one point, in a decision that in hindsight looks almost darkly comedic, engineers tried to fix the problem by deploying more code changes to the malfunctioning server without fully understanding the root cause yet, which briefly made things worse before they finally correctly identified PowerPeg as the culprit and shut it down.
By the time they fully killed the process, 45 minutes had passed. Knight Capital was left holding a massive, lopsided pile of stock positions it never intended to own and had to unwind it all, at a loss immediately, just to survive the day. Final damage, $440 million. Gone in less time than it takes to watch this video twice. $440 million might not sound apocalyptic for a Wall Street firm, until you know that Knight Capital's entire market value the day before was only about $365 million. They had lost more money than the company was worth. Within days, Knight Capital was scrambling for an emergency $400 million bailout from a group of investors just to avoid bankruptcy. The rescue came at a brutal cost. Existing shareholders got massively diluted, and the company that once handled a sixth of America's stock trades was effectively broken beyond repair. 6 months later, Knight Capital was absorbed in a merger, and the name quietly disappeared from Wall Street altogether. The SEC later fined the company $12 million, concluding the disaster stemmed from a violation of basic risk management rules, specifically not having proper safeguards to catch exactly this kind of failure before it went live. So what actually caused $440 million to vanish in under an hour? Not a genius hacker, not a market crash, not even really one engineer's mistake, because blaming a single person misses the real story. It was a company that let a manual deployment process run software worth billions of dollars a day, with no automated check to confirm all servers matched, and no reliable alert system to catch it fast when something went wrong. Knight Capital had built a Ferrari of a trading system, and forgot to check if all 4 tires were even the same brand. It's the same pattern you'll see in almost every story on this channel. The failure is never really about the tiny mistake itself. Typos happen. Old code gets forgotten. That's inevitable. What separates a 5-minute oopsie from a $440 million catastrophe is whether there was anything in place to catch it before it went live. If you liked this one, subscribe. This channel is just going to be one of these disasters after another, and honestly, there's no shortage of material.